Hello and welcome to another update from Complete Wealth. This time we're talking about the second round of government stimulus packages announced in the last couple of days, and I'm joined by Matt Armstrong. Welcome, Matt.
G'day, boys. How are you?
And Christopher Sutherland from our systems team to make sure everything runs nice and smoothly yet again. So, Matt, I might kick off. There's been another bunch of announcements by the federal government predominantly around trying to keep the economy sort of functioning through this period of significantly reduced economic output. So we might start with retirees. There's been a couple of announcements specifically with retirees. Similar to the GFC period, the government have reduced the pension minimum, so people have to draw on their super by 50%. And the idea there is because with market volatility and prices have reduced it gives them the opportunity to not have to sell down necessarily as much during that period. And also the deeming rates have been dropped for age pension as well. So obviously the deeming rates is that the rate of income that the government assumes you're making off your investments, and therefore how much is included in the age pension test. So the combination of the reduced rate and also the potentially reduced values of portfolios means that many age pensioners will get a pretty noticeable increase in their age pension benefits.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a couple other things too, I guess, with that. So I think it's about 900,000 people estimated to benefit from the reduction in their deeming rates on the pensions. So that'll happen automatically. So the government will automatically assume that you're earning a bit less on your investments. So that will affect a lot of people who are income tested for Centrelink purposes. And also the other thing with the for the retirees, for the people that are benefiting at the moment from an age pension payment or a disability support pension payment, they'll actually get two one-off payments of $750. So one's going to be paid at the end of March, I think 31st of March, and the other one's going to be paid 10th of July. So there's two one-off payments of $750 per person for eligible retirees who are getting a Centrelink payment as well. So yeah, so it basically means more from Centrelink for most people who are already accessing it, and the ability to leave your investments in the market if you don't want to draw down from super, which hopefully will help with the recovery.
Yeah, and also updating those asset values as well will have an impact in terms of those who are either having deemed financial investments or subject to the asset test as well. So that's something that I know we're going through at the moment with clients. So, but there's also a fair bit in terms of working people, Matt. That wasn't in particular this particular announcement. This second round, if you like, was a lot more focused on working people.
Yeah, definitely. So they've expanded some of the access that's available for income support. So income support includes a lot of different payments. There's a big list of them, which I won't go through, but if you're getting a parenting payment, or if you're receiving job seeker payments, or if you're on disability or any other type of Centrelink payment, or if you receive a Centrelink healthcare card, there's some stuff that you possibly are entitled to. The main changes, though, are the expansion of the access to the job seeker payments. So historically, you had to be out of work for quite a period of time and have no financial resources available to you to get the job seeker payment. Now, if you're an employee who's been stood down, if you're a sole trader, if you're a casual worker, if you've had your income impaired by 20% or more, you're actually likely to be eligible for a job seeker payment, which is up to $550 a fortnight. From the end of April, for people who are on that job seeker payment, there's a coronavirus bonus which is coming as well, which is a further $550 a fortnight. So if you are a sole trader, self-employed, or if you've been stood down from work, or if you're casual worker not getting any shifts, it's pretty important to get started with getting onto Centrelink now and putting in an application. Because the sooner you apply, the sooner your payments will begin. And then if you're in the system and you're already receiving a payment from the end of April, you'd get a $550 per fortnight bonus. So you'd get effectively the max payment is $1,100 a fortnight, which hopefully will support people as they're trying to get back into the workforce or look at other sources of income for their sole trader activities. there are one-off payments to individuals and households who aren't retired as well. So I mentioned the $750 payments that people will pick up earlier if you're on a Centrelink payment. So certainly anyone who's a job seeker or anyone who's receiving any form of Centrelink payment would also get that $750 bonus at the end of March 31st, and then once again on the 10th of July at this stage. The other thing that I guess to look at, it's probably less favourable from a planning long-term point of view, but it's something that's available to you if you do need the funds. You are also able to access potentially up to $10,000 between now and the 30th of June from early release of your superannuation. So that's going to be tax-free payment of $10,000, but it's coming out of your capital. It's money that you've earmarked for your future, so you have to take that in consideration before you draw the 10 down. And then there's a second lot of 10,000 that can be drawn down from the 1st of July onwards for about a 3-month period. So to qualify for that, you have to be considered, I'm just looking at my notes here, unemployed. You have to be receiving a job seeker payment. Or if your income, you have to be able to prove that your income or your working hours has fallen by at least 20% or more. So the way to apply for it is once again through your MyGov account. So for most of this stuff, the fastest way to get access to everything is going to be via the internet and via MyGov, because it links up to all of your accessible information, and you'll get your updates and your reminders on how things are going via your MyGov account as well. So hopefully the government website has enough bandwidth to handle it, but there's going to be a lot of traffic flowing through there. So get online early and start that process, and that'll give you the best chance of getting approval and payments sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so that's a really important point, because MyGov is obviously the system that the government's using to handle that. So straight away, everyone who's already part of that system receiving those payments you mentioned will automatically be picked up. But those who, are newly eligible, if you like, those, particularly those who, may still have some work, but they've had that sort of 20% reduction, getting your MyGov account set up as quickly as possible will give you access to both those $550 a fortnight payments. The government's basically said, look, we'll make sure everyone's getting at least $1,100 a fortnight for the next 6 months. But also that super payment, as you say, so that early access to super. So that traditionally that's been very narrow in terms of people's ability to withdraw under financial hardship, but they've extended and widened that scope to say, okay, well, it'll be tax-free. It won't impact any of those other payments, so it won't be then offset against things like if you're on a disability pension or age pension or anything else. There's going to be no penalty for that $10,000 being included to reduce those benefits. But you're right, it is also going to come from their investment account, right? So they're going to potentially be selling down some of their investment assets to do that.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, and the other thing with that also, it's important to know, is that you get one shot at each payment. So if you decide, for example, that you just want to take $5,000 now, then that's going to be your payment up until June 30. You can't go and get the other $5 later. It's a one-time withdrawal. So you'll still be eligible to take up to $10,000 after 1 July. But whatever you take in that first round or that second round, you kind of only get sort of one shot at it. So it's really important to consider that, if you're going to apply. But the way you do that, again, through the MyGov account, you tell essentially the ATO that, yes, I've had that reduction. They'll notify your super fund. But obviously many people in that accumulation phase of their super funds won't have any payment direction. So you'll still need to contact your fund and make sure they've got some way to pay that money to you as well.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, just obviously with all this stuff, you want to be mindful that you've got all your details up to date, and you're also a little bit mindful of security too. So there's going to be an increase in frauds and stuff happening because there's a lot of money flying around. Whenever there's handouts and government money, 100% guarantee there's going to be an increase in the crime that's around that. So just be careful who you're giving your personal financial details to, and make sure that you are correctly logged into the right website and following all your security measures. The ATO is not going to ring you up over the phone and ask you to confirm details. The MyGov stuff is going to be all electronic, so just be very careful with security as well. But yeah, definitely got to get all your data through so you get your payments as quick as you can.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So, and it's probably something Christopher you spend a lot more time in sort of, that part of the world. So talk a little bit about, accessing websites and how to make sure people are confident they're going to the right website.
For sure. So obviously the first thing is when you look in the URL, the website address up the top, you want to see the HTTPS, or on some web browsers they have a little green padlock or a padlock. That's obviously the first step. And then you want to look at the full website address. Is it .gov.au? That's going to be the legit one, rather than mygov.net.au or something like that. You want the .gov.au.
Yep. And not following links, I suppose, is another thing as well, right? So typing in the name of the website you're trying to go to, so
that's right,
so that it's going in clean.
Yeah.
Software programs, those sorts of things that people, antiviruses, those sorts of things people should have on their PCs.
Yeah, 100%. So they definitely need that, whether they're Mac or PC. They want some antivirus software.
Yeah, because a lot of those I know will give you a bit of a hint to say, hang on a minute, you're going to a website that we know is a bit suspect. So, those sort of things is a really good point, because especially those people who aren't as familiar with, dealing with lots of different websites. But that's a good point, Matt, that the ATO doesn't ring you up and ask for information. So if you're going through MyGov, that's going to be a communication channel. Make sure that you're protecting those passwords, etc., as you normally would. The other big area, Matt, obviously is business owners and small to medium businesses. Again, the point of this latest package is to try and make sure the economy continues to function as much as possible, so that as we get through this, it's not it's a regaining of momentum as opposed to having to literally jumpstart life again. So there's been a doubling, I know, of the PAYG benefits as well. So the announcement a couple of weeks ago was the government were going to pay up to 50% of the PAYG that businesses withheld. So this is the money they withhold from their employees to pay to the tax office. So that's now been increased to 100% and doubled to 100,000. So the first payment when you do your instalment activity statement at the end of this month, so from the 28th of April, you'll get up to 100% of your PAYG credited, up to 50,000. So that's a bit of a short-term boost. And then the same thing again in June, assuming that you're paying quarterly. And if you're paying monthly, then it'll start on a monthly basis sort of going forward. So this is for businesses up to, I think, 50 million in terms of turnover. So so that's a pretty substantial tax relief, if you like, for small businesses as well.
Yeah, definitely. And with that one, it's an automatic payment, so there's not a lot of activity you need to do other than if you lodge your activity statement, so your quarterly BAS, which will be due, you're obviously inclined to want to lodge that earlier rather than wait till the last day this time, just to get yourself ahead of the curve in the system. Talk to your accountant about options with paying salaries for working directors and stuff like that. So there may be an opportunity because money's coming out of the business to people and it's being taxed somewhere. So the opportunity to pay a wage that you might not have paid to somebody else previously exists, which will help you get a higher potential refund of those tax credits. And the other thing with that as well, talk to your accountant. So if your income is likely to be severely impaired, you can actually reduce the amount that you pay each quarter to the tax office. Everyone's required to prepay their tax now on a quarterly basis for the next financial year. If your profits are likely to drop a lot, then you might want to just preempt a bit of that and not pay the tax in the June quarter, which means that it's money that you can still use in your business and you don't have to wait till you lodge your tax return to get a refund of. So two things there: talk to your accountant about lodging your BAS and who should be an employee of the business, and the second one, look at possibly reducing your quarterly installment, or I think it's amending it down, so you can amend it down to zero potentially if it's likely to change. So do that with your accountant though, that's the key there.
Yeah, so like all of these situations, the detail can be relatively complex. So it's really important that you talk to the right experts. So in this case, all business owners should be having that conversation with their accountant, because it's, yes, if you just lodge your activity statement, the ATO is going to work off the information they have. So it's important to make sure you get that right. And finally, the other big thing, Matt, is there's been a huge amount of change to essentially credit policies, both from the Reserve Bank perspective, banking point of view, and I know the Reserve Bank's made a significant amount of money available to banks to help provide liquidity and also reduce the cost for banks. I know that most of the majors in particular have come out with various packages around reducing interest rates for businesses in particular, giving them repayment holidays of up to 6 months. So there's been a lot of activity around from the banking sector, supported by the Reserve Bank, to sort of say, well, look, hey, it's in no one's interest to start sending businesses to the wall because they're clearly not going to be able to repay their debts. And that, again, will be a big part of keeping things sort of going for the next sort of little while. In that area, is there anything else that business owners should be doing to make sure they're taking advantage of those opportunities?
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple of guarantees that are being offered by the government too. So there's a small business SME guarantee scheme that the government set up. So 50% of SME lenders will be guaranteed by a government-backed scheme, which is a $40 billion effective line of credit. The government's going to guarantee some of those loans. So that means that you've got a little bit more support when you go to the bank to ask for credit. They're reducing some of the red tape too. So for lending to small business, you won't need as much financial information. You won't need to provide the usual sort of bank statements for 2 years tax returns and the like to get a loan approved. So hopefully that'll speed up the processing of credit. So if you're in desperate need of cash, you want it now. You don't want to wait 2 months for your money and be broke in the meantime. And also the Reserve Bank too. So with the recent round of interest rate cuts as well, they have sent us into uncharted territory by cutting the rates by 50 basis points down to a record low. So we're heading towards zero as far as interest rates go. So that will effectively inject a fair bit of cash back into the economy now, because people will need to pay less on their minimum repayments. So with that, you're either paying less on your ordinary mortgage. If you're struggling to meet your commitments, you can actually go back to your lender now. The ABA, which is a banking association, have got together with the banks and said that they'll approve a holiday on your repayments for up to 6 months. So you can effectively put your repayments on hold for 6 months, which hopefully is obviously improving your cash flow position, allowing you to keep the doors open, spend some money trying to find some new customers and alternate ways to make revenue during your difficult time. So there is a little bit of activity there.
Yeah, so that's a very good sign in running on that theme of we're all in this together and we'll all benefit by not allowing people to fail, because at the end of the day we're all going to need that increased activity. We talk about the idea that one person's expenses is another person's income, and the economy is really just that continual exchange of value, right? So if people aren't in a position where they can create any value, then you can't exchange with them, and we don't really have an economy. So the other thing I think is really important is for those people who have the capacity to spend, right, for those who are government employees or have very secure sort of jobs, now's the time to be maintaining, if not increasing spending, right? So that we can make sure that those businesses, especially those small businesses in the local areas that are the lifeblood of the community, that we keep those doors open as much as possible, and that, I'm seeing lots of reports of people sort of going and buying, vouchers from their local restaurants or their favourite, boutique stores or whatever to say, look, I don't need any clothes at the moment, but, I want some in the future and I want you to be open to sell them to me. So, buy a $200 voucher or, those sorts of things as well, which is a really great thing to sort of see. But, that's actually in our own interest, right? So, this isn't the time to be hoarding our resources, including cash. This is a time to make sure that we're doing everything we can to sort of keep things going so that when we get through this somewhat temporary medical issue, that we haven't compounded it by creating a much bigger economic issue that we could have mitigated to some degree.
Yep. There's a couple other things with respect to the business as well that we kind of skipped over. So there is a coronavirus business liaison unit. So if you are querying about stuff that you're eligible for with respect to business and how you get access to it, if you can't get that answer from your accountant, there is a government unit. So jump on the Treasury website. So it's treasury.gov.au/coronavirus/ business, and it has a list of all the stuff that you're entitled to. We'll send some links out with this video as well. So if it's going out via email, there'll be links in the body of the email. If it's on one of our social media channels, there'll be comments below which give you the links to be able to get access to it. And there's a couple other quick things with business as well. So in the line of spending, so there's an increase in the allowable tax deductions for instant asset write-offs. So if you buy something in the next sort of period, which is for use in the in your business, so if you're buying a car or a truck or something that's depreciated, you're actually going to get the ability to claim a deduction up to $100,000 for the purchase of that asset. So there is a little bit of extra there. Also, if you were thinking about putting someone on, it might be a good time to look at an apprentice or someone who's in that trainee mould, because the government will pay up to 50% of their wages. So if you do need somebody, so let's say you're wanting to build your online presence, or you're wanting to charge out at a lower rate, if you're a plumber or a tradesperson, then an apprentice might be a good way to get you through the next bit. They can handle a bit of the workload while you're spending time on your business building it, and you'll get some subsidies from the government. So it's not just a refund of the tax that you're paying for your existing employees. There's the potential to put some people on and gear up for growth, and get the government to spend some of the money to help you.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing to keep in mind is, with a lot of people are going to be out of work for at least a period of time. There's going to be a lot of very hungry labour around, right? So these are tough times, but these are also times when not only are financial markets putting everything on sale, even things like labour. There's going to be very high quality people available, some pretty good prices, and if you can get some degree of subsidy from the government as well, there's some businesses out there that would benefit from that substantially. So. All right. Well,
I think it's really important. Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's really important to gear up for growth. So especially if you're in small business, you need to be planning for what it looks like after this. And, inside of every kind of crisis, there's always an opportunity to do something better. And it's not the government, it's not the economy, it's not anything else that in small business, it always comes back to the small business owners and the staff to put that plan together. So if you're gearing up for growth through this period and you can see the way forward beyond this, when everybody else is kind of scrambling to survive, if you're building a long-term plan, you're going to come out a lot better than if you're just looking around for whatever handouts are there and what you can do in the short term to keep the doors open. So keep your long-term focus, make sure your long-term plan is still robust, while keeping obviously a very keen eye on your cash flows in the short term.
All right. Well, thanks, Matt. It's been pretty comprehensive, and as always, if you got any questions, you know where to find us. And as Matt said, there'll be links in the videos below the videos to give you an idea of where you can get more detailed information. Until next time, thanks for joining us.